The massive alien ships moved slowly through space toward the small blue planet. Commander Veltek stood on the bridge of his flagship, looking at the reports about Earth. His sharp teeth showed in what might have been a smile. These humans looked so weak and stupid. Look at this, his second-in-command said, pointing at the data. They still shoot metal bullets at each other. Their rockets barely reach their own moon. This will be easier than taking candy from a child. Veltak clicked, his claws together. For 800 years, his people had conquered world after world. The plan never changed. Show up with big ships. Scare the locals. Accept their surrender. Take everything valuable. Move on to the next planet. These humans would be no different from all the others. How long until we reach their world? Veltak asked. 6 hours, Commander. Our advanced scouts report the humans are fighting each other in at least 12 different wars. They won't even notice us until we're right on top of them. Far below on Earth, Dr. Kim Hanna sat in a room deep underground beneath the mountains. Outside Seoul, banks of computers surrounded her, their screens showing the alien fleet getting closer every minute. She had been watching these ships for 3 weeks now, ever since the deep space sensors first detected them. Most people on Earth had no idea what was coming, but some did. A small group of scientists, military officers, and world leaders had been preparing for this day for years. They called it the Homecoming Protocol. Hannah pressed a button on her console. Phoenix control to all stations. The visitors are here. Begin Homecoming Protocol immediately. Around the world, things started happening very fast. In hidden bunkers carved into mountains, soldiers ran to their positions. Satellites that looked like broken space junk suddenly came alive. Secret factories that had been building weapons for months began moving their products to launch sites. The first Warthog ships entered Earth's atmosphere over New York, London, Tokyo, and a dozen other major cities. The alien commanders expected to see millions of terrified humans running through the streets. Instead, they found something much more frightening. The cities were empty. "Where is everyone?" asked the pilot of the first landing craft as it descended toward Times Square. The streets that should have been packed with people were completely deserted. Cars sat abandoned in the middle of roads. Office windows stared down like dead eyes. "Maybe they're hiding in their buildings," suggested another. "Alien soldier. The primitive ones always hide at first." That's when the sky caught fire. The first kinetic strike came from what the aliens had thought was a piece of space debris. A tungsten rod moving at incredible speed punched through the shields of the Vorthok heavy cruiser like it was made of paper. The massive ship exploded in a bowl of white-hot plasma that lit up half the continent. Impossible. Veltak screamed as alarms began blaring all over his ship. Their technology is centuries behind ours. How did they? Another strike hit his port engine. Then another took out his weapons array. All around the fleet, Vorthok ships were dying as the humans' hidden orbital platforms revealed themselves and began firing. On the ground, Colonel Park Ji-hoon watched the alien landing craft touch down in what used to be downtown Seoul. He spoke quietly into his radio. "All units, weapons free. Remember your training. Hit hard, hit fast, disappear." The Vorthok soldiers that emerged from their ships expected to face frightened civilians with primitive weapons. Instead, they walked into the most sophisticated ambush in human history. Every building had been turned into a fortress. Every street corner hid soldiers with weapons that mixed human engineering with stolen alien technology. The aliens fought the way they always fought, with overwhelming force and predictable tactics. They had conquered hundreds of worlds using the same methods, but humans were different. Humans had been fighting each other for thousands of years. They knew every dirty trick, every brutal tactic, every way to turn an enemy's strength against them. Lieutenant Lee Sun-ho led his squad through the ruins of what used to be a shopping mall. They carried rifles that fired bullets made from alien metal, powered by energy cells torn from captured Vorthok equipment. When they found a group of alien soldiers, they didn't attack head-on like the aliens expected. Instead, they used the aliens' own tactics against them. "Remember," Sun-ho whispered to his men, "they think we're primitives. Let's show them what primitives can do." The battle for Earth lasted only 6 hours. By the time it was over, 60% of the Vorthok invasion force was dead or captured. The survivors limped back to their ships and fled toward deep space, sending desperate messages to their homeworld. For the first time in 800 years, the Vorthok Empire had been defeated, and as their broken fleet disappeared into the darkness between stars, the humans began preparing for the next phase of their plan. The aliens had made one crucial mistake. They had assumed that a species that fought itself so constantly would be easy to conquer. They never considered that all that fighting might have made humans very good at war. The attack came from every direction at once. Commander Vel stood frozen on his bridge as bright streaks of light tore through space around his fleet. The tungsten rods moved so fast they looked like lightning bolts, and each one that hit a Vorthok ship turned it into a miniature sun. Shield generators are failing. His weapons officer screamed over the alarms. We're losing the Death's Edge and the Star Crusher. Veltok couldn't believe what he was seeing. These humans were supposed to be primitives. They barely had rockets that could reach their own moon, yet somehow they had built weapons that could destroy his most powerful warships in seconds. Return fire, he ordered. Target those orbital platforms. But when his gunners tried to lock onto the human weapons, they found nothing but empty space. The platforms had been disguised so well that even now, while they were shooting, the Vorthok sensors couldn't tell them apart from regular space junk docked down on Earth. Colonel Park Ji-hoon sat in his command bunker watching the battle unfold on dozens of screens. He had spent months studying every piece of alien combat footage they could get their hands on. The Vorthok always fought the same way. They showed up with massive ships, scared everyone into surrendering, then landed troops to clean up any resistance. "Sir, the aliens are landing in Sector 7, reported his communications officer. Let them come, Park said calmly. All units, remember your training. These aliens have conquered hundreds of worlds, but they've never fought anyone like us." The first Vorthok landing ships touched down in what used to be downtown Busan. The alien soldiers that emerged expected to find panicked humans running in every direction. Instead, they found empty streets and silence. Then the buildings began shooting at them. Every window, every doorway, every pile of rubble hid human soldiers with weapons the aliens had never seen before. The humans didn't stand and fight like honorable warriors. They shot from hiding, disappeared before the aliens could shoot back, then appeared somewhere else to attack again. Lieutenant Lee Sun-ho crouched behind the remains of a bus, watching a squad of Vorthok soldiers move down the street. His rifle looked almost normal, but the bullets it fired were made from alien metal and powered by energy cells stolen from crashed Vorthok ships. "Wait for it," he whispered to his team through their radio headsets. "Let them get closer." The aliens moved in a tight formation, just like their training manuals said they should. It was the same formation they had used to conquer dozens of worlds. But those other worlds hadn't spent thousands of years fighting wars against their own species now, Sun-ho said quietly. His team opened fire from 6 different directions. The alien soldiers tried to return fire, but the humans were already gone, melting away through sewers and building connections they had prepared months in advance. By the time the aliens figured out where the shots had come from, Sun-ho's team was 3 blocks away, setting up their next ambush. Major Kim Tae-yeon led a different kind of attack. His team specialized in what the aliens would later call impossible warfare. They took captured Vorthok weapons and turned them into bombs. They hacked into alien communication systems and fed false information to enemy commanders. They even captured alien soldiers and questioned them to learn how their equipment worked. The plasma rifle power cells make excellent explosives if you know how to overload them, Tae-yeon explained to his demolitions expert as they prepared another trap. The aliens never thought anyone would be smart enough to figure that out. In space, the battle was going badly for the Vorthok. Their ships were designed to fight other fleets in open space, not to deal with hidden weapons that struck without warning. Every time they tried to target the human orbital platforms, more tungsten rods would come streaking out of nowhere to punch through their hulls. "Sir, we've lost 8 cruisers and 4 destroyers, reported Veltek's tactical officer. "The humans are using our own sensor networks against us somehow." That was exactly what the humans were doing. Sergeant Yoon Jawan sat in a captured Vorthok communication pod, her fingers flying over alien controls she had learned to use in just 3 weeks. Every time a Vorthok ship tried to scan for human weapons, she fed false information back through their own sensors. "Phantom target uploaded to Grid 77, she reported to her commander. "The aliens are now shooting at empty space while our real platforms move to new positions." The ground war lasted only for hours. By the time it was over, the humans had captured or destroyed most of the Vorthok landing force. The aliens who survived couldn't understand what had happened. They had fought exactly the way they always fought, using tactics that had worked for 800 years. But humans didn't fight like the other species. The Vorthok had conquered. Humans had been fighting each other since the beginning of their history. They knew every dirty trick, every clever strategy, every way to turn an enemy's advantages into weaknesses. As the surviving Vorthok ships retreated toward deep space, Their commanders sent desperate messages back to their homeworld. For the first time in their empire's history, they were asking for help. The primitive humans had done something no other species had managed in 8 centuries. They had made the Vorthok afraid. 6 months after their first defeat, the Vorthok returned to Earth with the biggest fleet they had ever assembled. 1,200 warships filled the space around the small blue planet, carrying 2 million of their best soldiers. High Commander Zethrak stood on the bridge of his flagship, confident that no primitive world could stand against such overwhelming power. This time will be different, he told his officers. We bring enough firepower to crack their planet in half. These humans will surrender or die. But when the Vorthok fleet arrived at Earth, they found something that made their blood run cold. The planet had changed completely. Where once there had been a few hidden orbital platforms, now there were thousands of human warships waiting for them. The space around Earth looked like a metal forest of weapons and armor. Admiral Choi Minho stood on the bridge of his battleship, the Soul's Vengeance. The massive ship had been built in just 4 months using a mix of human engineering and captured alien technology. Around him, his crew worked at stations that looked both familiar and strange, human designs powered by alien energy sources. Sir, the enemy fleet is bigger than we expected, reported Captain Yoon Ji-won from her tactical station. 1,200 ships against our 400. Minho looked at the display showing the approaching alien fleet. They were flying in the same tight formations they had used for centuries, following the same attack patterns that had conquered hundreds of worlds. They still don't understand what they're dealing with. Signal all ships. Begin the attack. What happened next shocked the Vorthok to their core. Instead of waiting to be attacked, the human fleet charged straight at them. Human ships moved in patterns that made no sense to alien tactical computers. They broke apart and reformed like schools of fish, struck from unexpected angles, then disappeared before the aliens could respond. Captain Park Seojin piloted his fighter through the chaos of the space battle, weaving between the massive alien ships while his wingman followed close behind. His fighter had been a civilian transport ship just 6 months ago, but human engineers had turned it into a weapon of war. Target the shield generators on that big one, he told his squadron over the radio. Remember, we're not trying to win a fair fight, we're trying to survive. His fighters dove toward a Vorthok battleship, firing missiles that had been designed using alien technology but built with human improvements. The aliens tried to track the small, fast-moving targets, but humans had learned something important. During their centuries of war against each other, sometimes the best way to kill a giant was to be too small and quick for it to hit back. On the ground, Major Song Haijin watched the space battle from her command center while coordinating Earth's atmospheric defenses. When alien landing craft began breaking through the orbital battle, she knew what had to be done. All fighter squadrons, this is command, she spoke into her headset. We are authorized for kamikaze protocols. I repeat, kamikaze protocols are now active. The words sent a chill through the listening Vorthok communication interceptors. Kamikaze was a human concept they had never encountered before. The idea that soldiers would deliberately crash their own ships into enemy vessels was so alien to their thinking that their tactical computers couldn't process it. Song Haijin climbed into her own fighter, a sleek craft that had been her pride and joy before the war. Now it was loaded with enough explosives to take out a cruiser. This is for everyone who won't see tomorrow, she whispered as she launched toward the biggest alien ship she could find. Ground Commander Kim Taeyeon faced a different kind of battle. Alien troops were landing all over Asia, and he had to stop them with whatever weapons he could find. That included things the Vorthok had never seen before. Deploy the biological weapons in Sector 7, he ordered his staff. Release the engineered plague in Sector 12. Arm the nuclear mines in Sector 20. The aliens had expected to fight human soldiers with guns and explosives. They weren't prepared for invisible diseases that killed them in hours, or for entire cities that had been turned into traps, or for weapons that poisoned the very air they breathed. Commander Veltak, who had survived the first battle, found himself leading a ground assault against what used to be the city of Seoul. He expected to find frightened civilians hiding in buildings. Instead, he found that every human civilian had become a soldier. Old men threw homemade bombs from apartment windows. Children ran through the streets carrying messages between hidden gun positions. Women who had been teachers and nurses just months before now built improvised weapons from kitchen supplies and alien scrap metal. They're all soldiers, Veltak reported back to his ship in disbelief. Every single human is fighting us. Even their younglings are dangerous. The battle for Earth lasted 3 days. When it was over, the Vorthok had lost 800 ships, and over 1 million soldiers. The survivors fled in panic, sending desperate messages back to their homeworld. The humans had shown them something terrifying. While other species fought for territory or resources or honor, humans fought for something much more dangerous. They fought like their entire species would die if they lost, and that made them willing to do things that no civilized species would ever consider. The Vorthok Empire was learning a hard lesson. Sometimes the most dangerous enemy isn't the strongest or the smartest. Sometimes it's the one that refuses to give up. The war had been going on for 6 months now, and everything had changed. The Vorthok Empire, which had never lost a battle in 800 years, was running away from Earth like scared children. Their mighty invasion fleet was nothing but floating wreckage around the human planet, and now human ships were chasing the survivors through deep space. Captain Han Minji sat in the command chair of her warship, the Incheon Rising, watching her prey try to escape. The alien ship ahead of them was badly damaged, leaking atmosphere and limping toward the edge of the solar system where it could jump to safety. Distance to target, she asked her weapons officer. 30,000 kilometers. And closing, Captain. The alien ship is trying to reach the jump point, but at their current speed, we'll catch them in 12 minutes. Minji nodded. Her crew had all lost someone in the first alien attack 6 months ago. The man at the weapons station had watched his wife die when the aliens bombed Busan. The woman at the sensors had lost her children when Seoul was attacked. They all had reasons to hate the aliens, and they all wanted revenge. Captain, the alien ship is trying to surrender, reported the communications officer. They're broadcasting in broken Korean, begging us to let them go. Minji's face showed no emotion. Load antimatter torpedoes, target their engine section. The alien ship kept broadcasting its surrender, but Minji had seen what these creatures did to human cities. She had walked through the ruins of her hometown and seen the bodies of people who had tried to surrender to the aliens. The Vorthok had shown no mercy then, and she would show none now. Fire, she ordered. The torpedoes streaked through space and hit the alien ship dead center. For a moment, there was a flash of light brighter than the sun, and then nothing. The Vortok cruiser had been completely destroyed, turned into atoms by the antimatter explosion. Good shooting, Minji said quietly. Set course for the next target. Back on Earth, Dr. Kim Hanna worked in a secret laboratory deep underground. The room was filled with captured alien computers and communication equipment. For months, she and her team had been learning how to read Vorthok data files and break their codes. We've got another one, called out her assistant, Lieutenant Park Seojin, the alien's central military database. All their fleet positions, supply routes, and base locations. Hannah looked at the star map that appeared on her screen. The Vorthok Empire was huge, spreading across 47 different star systems, but now the humans knew where everything was. Every military base, every supply depot, every civilian population center was marked on the map. Send this to General O immediately, she told Park, and begin preparing target packages for the fleet commanders. In the rebuilt command center in Seoul, General Oh Dong-yuk studied the intelligence reports from around the galaxy. The Vorthok Empire was in chaos. Their fleets were scattered, their communication networks were compromised, and their military leadership was in panic. Sir, we have confirmation from Deep Space Reconnaissance, reported his aide. The aliens are pulling back from 3 more star systems. They're abandoning their forward bases and retreating toward their homeworld. Oh smiled grimly. They're finally beginning to understand what they've awakened. How many ships do we have ready for deep space operations? 240 warships, sir, all equipped with hybrid human-alien technology. The crews are all volunteers from the invasion survivors. Good. These aliens came to our world expecting an easy victory. Instead, they've given us something invaluable, the locations of their entire empire. Now we're going to visit each of their worlds and return the favor they tried to give us. Commander Veltak, one of the few surviving Vorthok officers from the original invasion, sat in the command center of his empire's military headquarters. The reports coming in from across the galaxy were all bad. Human warships were appearing everywhere, hunting down fleeing Vorthok vessels and destroying them, without mercy. Sir, we've lost contact with the 4th Fleet, reported his communications officer. Their last transmission was a distress call from the Kepler system. That's the 7th Fleet we've lost this month, Biltak said, his voice filled with despair. These humans are hunting us like animals. They're not even trying to capture our ships or take prisoners. They're just destroying everything they find. The truth was even worse than Veltek realized. The humans weren't just randomly attacking Vorthok ships, they were systematically destroying the alien empire piece by piece, using the aliens' own intelligence networks against them. Every time a Vorthok commander sent a message, human codebreakers intercepted it and used the information to plan their next attack. Captain Lee Nari commanded one of the human deep space squadrons. Her ships had been hunting Vorthok vessels for 3 months now, and she had learned something important about her enemy. The aliens were used to being the hunters, not the hunted. When the tables turned, they didn't know how to fight back. Another supply convoy, bearing 097, her sensor officer reported. 5 cargo ships with 2 escort vessels. Standard attack pattern, Nari ordered. Destroy the escorts first, then the cargo ships. No survivors, no witnesses. The attack was over in minutes. The human ships struck without warning, destroyed their targets completely, then disappeared back into deep space before any other alien forces could respond. It was the same pattern they had used dozens of times before, and it was driving the Vorthok Empire toward collapse. The hunters had indeed become the hunted, and the humans were very good at this game. 1 year had passed since the first alien ships appeared in Earth's sky, and now Admiral Choi Minho stood on the bridge of his flagship looking down at the Vorthok homeworld. The massive planet below was home to 8 billion aliens who had ruled the galaxy for centuries. They had never lost a war, never retreated from battle, never even imagined that someone might one day come to their world with weapons pointed at their cities. "Sir, we're receiving hundreds of transmissions from the planet," reported Communications Officer Lee Nari. "They're all surrender offers. The planetary government wants to negotiate." Minho looked at the blue and green world spinning slowly beneath his fleet. It looked peaceful from space, just like Earth had looked when the aliens first arrived. But he knew that down there were the people who had ordered the attack on his world, who had planned to kill every human being alive. "Open a channel to the entire planet," he ordered. "All frequencies, all languages." The communication system crackled to life, and Minho's voice was heard in every city, every home, every military base on the Vorthok homeworld. "This is Admiral Choi Minho of the Human Defense Fleet. 1 year ago, your empire sent ships to attack our world. You believed we were weak and defenseless. You have learned otherwise." On the planet below, billions of Vorthok listened in terror. As the human commander continued speaking, "You now face the same choice you once offered humanity. Surrender unconditionally, or face complete annihilation. You have 1 hour to decide." The response came in less than 10 minutes. The Vorthok government surrendered completely, offering to give up all their weapons, all their territory, all their military forces. They begged the humans not to destroy their world. Captain Park Sajin commanded one of the human landing ships. As it descended toward the Vorthok capital city, his soldiers were nervous. They had never seen an alien city before, and they didn't know what to expect, but they were ready for anything. "Remember," Park told his troops over the radio, "these aliens ruled the galaxy for 800 years. They conquered hundreds of worlds and killed billions of people. Today, that ends." The Vorthok capital was a city of gleaming towers and floating platforms, more advanced than anything on Earth. But as the human ships landed, the streets filled with aliens carrying white flags and signs of surrender. They had heard what happened. 2 Vorthok fleets that tried to fight the humans, and they wanted no part of it. Dr. Kim Hana walked through the halls of the Vorthok Imperial Palace, now serving as humanity's temporary headquarters on the conquered world. The aliens who had once ruled an empire now cowered in fear as human soldiers patrolled their most sacred buildings. "The Galactic Council has requested a meeting," her assistant told her. "Representatives from 47 different species want to discuss the new situation." Hannah nodded. The Galactic Council was made up of all the major species in this part of space. For centuries, they had lived in fear of the Vorthok Empire, paying tribute and following orders. Now they wanted to know what the humans planned to do with their new power. 2 weeks later, Hannah stood before the Galactic Council. In their great meeting hall on the neutral world of Diplomacy Prime, the assembled representatives looked at her, with a mixture of fear, hope, and curiosity. Some were species that had been enslaved by the Vorthok for generations. Others had paid tribute to avoid being conquered. All of them wondered what kind of rulers the humans would be. "Members of the Council," Hannah began, "humanity did not seek this war. We did not want to become conquerors, but when the Vorthok Empire threatened our world, we chose to fight rather than surrender." A tall, thin alien with blue skin raised his hand. "What are your intentions toward the former Vorthok territories? Will you rule them as the Vorthok did?" Hannah shook her head. Humanity has no desire to rule over other species. We fought to protect our world and our people. Now that the threat is ended, we want only to ensure that no other species suffers. What we almost suffered, another representative, this one looking like a giant insect, spoke up. But surely you will take the Vorthok worlds for yourselves. You have won the right of conquest. We will establish bases on key worlds to maintain peace, Hannah replied. But we will not enslave entire populations or strip planets of their resources. Any species that wishes to live in peace will be protected. Any species that threatens others will face the same fate as the Vorthok Empire. The message was clear to everyone in the hall. Humanity had become the new superpower in this part of the galaxy, but they were offering something the Vorthok never had: protection instead of conquest, peace instead of slavery. Back on Earth, General Lo Dongyuk read the reports from across the former Vorthok Empire. Human peacekeeping forces were establishing bases on 47 worlds. The alien species that had lived in fear for centuries were slowly beginning to believe that they might actually be safe. Sir, we're receiving requests for protection from 12 more species, his aide reported. They're asking for human military bases in their territory. All smiled. Grant the requests, but make sure our commanders understand. We're not conquerors, we're guardians. There's a difference. The age of the Vorthok Empire was over. The age of human protection had begun, and across the galaxy, species that had lived in fear for generations were finally free to hope for something better. The primitives from the small blue planet had not just survived first contact, they had remade the galaxy itself.